Om Sadashiv Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So in previous 5 sessions, we have covered chapter 1, which is Arjun Vishad Yoga, chapter 2, which is Dhyan Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, chapter 3, which is Karma Yoga, chapter 4 and 5, which we covered, chapter 14th, which was Gunatraya Vibhag, and chapter 4 and 5, which we covered last week, which are extension of chapter 3. So chapter 2 is Dhyan Yoga, chapter 3 is Karma Yoga. These are two fundamental teachings of Bhagavad Gita or any other Shastra. And everything is built on that. 3 and 4 and we saw 4 and 5 are extension of chapter 3, Karma Sannyas. So last time, whenever we talked about Karma Yoga, a lot of questions people have based on that shlok, Karmanyeva Adhikaraste, which is from the second chapter, 47th shlok, Ma Phaleshu Kadachan. And this is a very popular question, that why should we work if we are not focusing on goal? So Bhagavan is not saying that not focusing on goal. The Nishkam Karma Yoga, it means whatever I'm doing, if I have a feeling that I'm doing for the Lok Sangraha, which we saw the example of Swami Vivekananda, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Arvindo Ghosh, Shankaracharya himself, Mahatma Gandhi. All these people continued to use Gita teaching for Lok Sangraha. So they kept doing the karma, and intense karma, in fact, all these people. And many are there, which are maybe not been known. So as long as Lok Sangraha, the welfare of all beings, is in the mind, then my focus on my personal goal is reduced or melt down. And that is Bhagwan is saying. He's not saying that. The example here is, in spite of all, at the end of all this teaching Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan, many times during the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan has told Arjun, Yuddhaya Krat Nishchaya, get up Arjun, Uttisht. That means he is not losing the focus on the goal, which is Swadharma. Karma, when we say, it is Swadharma. So as long as it is Swadharma driven karma with the mind of welfare of all, which is Shreyas, that's what Arjun's question, tell me what is Shreyas. Preyas means my personal likes and dislikes. Shreyas means which is good for all. And then that is Karma Yoga, that is Nishkam Karma Yoga. So Bhagavan is not saying that just don't worry about but your motive is not personal goal, let's say in simple terms. So that's Karma Yoga, right? Now we are entering into a new topic, which is chapter 6, which is Dhyan Yoga or Atma Sanyam Yoga. When we say Atma Sanyam, means self-control, controlling not self in this. Let's not take self means Atma, controlling the senses, Indriya Nigraha. Atma Sanyam means control over the senses, or Dhyan Yoga. There are two names used. Right? Why Bhagavan has brought this now after explaining Karma Yoga? We know there is a principle of sustainability. We always say that, what if I have acquired something, let me sustain it. So now Bhagavan has given Arjun the knowledge of like the Atma Gyan and the Karma. What is the principle of Karma? But you have to sustain that teaching. You have to retain that teaching, convert that teaching into the personal characteristics or personality. So Dhyan is very helpful in that. Dhyan means meditation, which is a very popular term these days. But what is happening these days around the world is a small fragment, or a small, or I'll say the small part of, or a small model of that, what Bhagavan is saying here, Dhyan Yoga, which is good. Meditation, whatever we are doing outside of Bhagavad Gita is also good. But what we'll see what Bhagavan is saying about Dhyan to Arjun and why he's saying that. So there are certain benefits of Dhyan which will And again, one more thing about karma. The karma we have to do, keeping in mind, we have to plan also. It's not that just forget the goal. When we say planning, means there is a goal, right? So chronological planning is good to have, and it's required. Like how many days I'll complete the work. There is a calendar here. There are dates. There are events. There are people around me when I'm doing karma. So that we need to do that. But as long as chronologically we are planning and we are doing karma, which is fine. If the planning becomes psychological, that's where the problem starts. And that's what Bhagavan says in the second 11th shloka of second chapter. Gatasu na gatasu nanu shochanti pandita. Don't worry about what has happened in the past, and don't worry too much about what is going to happen in the future. Stay focused in the presence. So that is one of the key element of Karma Yoga also. So anyway, so now we come to Dhyan Yoga. So before that, my Guruji Swami Dayananda Saraswati has very nicely put some, we can use the word benefits of Dhyan, but outcome of the technique of Dhyan. We don't do meditation. We create an environment for us to be in meditative state or Dhyan avastha, we can say. So what happens when once somebody is in Dhyan state, or the technique we use, that meditation or Dhyan technique, or Atma Sanyam, we can say self-control, control over senses. So what happens? So the three things will happen if we regularly who's following that or sit in Dhyan, we can say, like, or stay in Dhyan. So number one is we get the freedom from personal likes and dislikes. That is biggest human weakness. So we get freedom from likes and dislikes by doing Dhyan. And in Gita term, it is overcoming rag and dvesh. Rag means attachment, dvesh means aversion or dislike. But we overcome that, because that is one of the biggest disturbance in the mind. And Dhyan is all about the mind. Mind is a central element in Dhyan. The one is free, we get freedom from likes and dislikes, means rag dvesh, we overcome rag dvesh. Second is we become, our mind become more abiding than reactive. We become more abiding. Abiding means stable than reactive. Generally we are reactive. Something happens, I'll just immediately react. So that is the advantage of Dhyan. In Gita terms, that is called Sthit Pragya. Second chapter, the last part of second chapter, Bhagavan talked about Sthit Pragya. Sthit Pragya means whose wisdom is established, or in other terms, the wisdom is always available to me whenever required. And that is Sthit Pragya. So that is, once we sit in Dhyan, we do that practice, then we get this, that our mind is more abiding than reactive. The third thing what we get from that, we become an observer without judging. Typically, this is human weakness. We always judge. Anything I see, the first thing, either I react or judge. By doing this, following this technique, what Bhagavan is saying, or other teachers have said that, which is Dhyan Yoga or Atma Sanyam Yoga. We become an observer without judging. And in Gita terms, it is called Samadrashta. Samadrashta means who has equanimity of vision. I see everything with the same eye. And the basic rule of that, everything in this world, especially human being or the living being, everyone has same Atma. So I don't judge people by their outlook, by their gender, by their color, by their race, because everyone has the same Atma. And that is called vision, the vision without judging, Samadrashta in Gita term. So these three benefits are there, benefit or outcome of the Dhyan process, right? And the mind which doesn't have ragadvesh, which is Sthit Prag, which is Samadrashta, is eligible for learning. Any learning, not Bhagavad Gita, any Shastra, and even academics, right? If we have these three things, stable mind, not judging, not reacting, and not much likes and dislikes, then this mind is capable of learning, which in Gita terms it is Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya. It is like that. We use a term that you cannot be loving something. You cannot make you love something. That you cannot do. It happens. There's a Hindi song that प्यार किया नहीं जाता, प्यार हो जाता है. You don't practice someone to love. It happens, right? Similarly, Dhyan also. You don't practice. When you create that environment, we saw in 14th chapter, when Sattva is higher, we overcome Rajogun and Tamogun. Rajogun is passion, Tamogun is inertia or sloth, and Sattva is the purity, that awareness. Then automatic Dhyan happens, right? So it's like that sprouting up. We don't say that I'm planting a tree. We say I'm planting a seed. A tree will come out of it if we create an environment for seed to become a tree. It's like that. So Dhyan happens when we create this environment. And that's what we are going to see. Bhagavan is going to that. So it's a preparation for a mind to be in meditative state. So let's take few shlok which cover this chapter. So let's go to okay. Now again, Bhagavan is saying that one is that all this technique, including Atma Sanyoga, Bhagavan says you are responsible, and in Karma Yoga also the same principle. You are accountable for your work and the outcome. So there is a shlok number 5 of 6th chapter, which tells, which reminds, and Bhagavan is a teacher, always give some message in the some like disclaimer or the instruction to the beginning, then the teaching, and then the outcome. All chapters you will see the same way. Right? So there is a 5th shlok which says, Uddharet Atmana Atmanam na Atmanam Avasadayet Atmeva hi Atmano Bandhu Atmeva Ripu Atmana. So Bhagavan is saying one should uplift oneself. One should not lower oneself, for the self alone is oneself friend, and self alone is enemy. If I work towards raising myself, like Sattvagun or the good work, Sattvagun is a term from Bhagavad Gita, but anything which will make my consciousness, my Chetana uplifting, that is, then I am my friend. When Bhagavan says Avsadayet, the word he is used Avsad. Avsad means depression in simple terms. But if I am depressed, I'm responsible for my own depression because I had done something which was lowering me down. So Bhagavan said that in that sense, you are your enemy. So the bottom line is the same. We said, not judging. Nobody else is responsible for my depression or avsad. I'm responsible. Or if I'm progressing, nobody else. I mean, we can get help from other resources, but I'm responsible. So in that sense, I'm my own friend. I'm my own enemy. Nobody else. And you are accountable. We call it accountability in corporate terms. So that's stroke number 5. Yes. Now we move further. We'll take shlok number 11 to 12, which is the technique we'll do at the end. Now we move to shlok number 6. So another Bhagavan says in this practice or sadhana, which is Atma Yoga or Atma Sanyoga or Dhyan Yoga or any other sadhana, but right now he's focusing on that. So Bhagavan says for Dhyan Yoga to be meaningful, to be fruitful, we can say the outcome will come. But there are certain, like when Bhagavan says you're responsible for your own upliftment or your own depression. So there is another shlok 17th where Bhagavan is talking about the moderation in life. We cannot be extremist in everything. Bhagavan is always finding, like Bhagavan Buddha, he worked all his life on middle path. His teaching was middle path. And that's what Bhagavan is saying here in this shlok, 17th shlok of 6th chapter. Yuktahar viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. What Bhagavan is saying here, that Dhyan Yoga or Yoga becomes the removal of all the sorrow or sufferings. Dukkha. Yogo bhavati. Dukkha means dukh or suffering are removed through yoga. When? when you have both moderation in eating and recreation. Yukta ahar viharas. Yukta ahar means consumption, not only food, anything we consume from outside. I mean, the resources are there in the world we consume, but we have to be moderate in that. And viharas means recreation or entertainment. Be moderate, be balanced, be regulated. Yukta cheshtasya karmasu. That is very powerful. Even in action, whatever I'm doing, let me be moderate, let me be regulated. And we call it the word workaholic, right? The word, this is exactly opposite of workaholic. Workaholic means you don't have, yukta means regulated or controlled action. Workaholic means just keep working. Bhagavan is saying, no, be moderate in that. Don't become extremist in anything. And then Bhagavan says, yukta swapnava bodhasya. Bodh means awakening. When you're awakened, be moderate. And that's what. So awaken means consuming ahar, vihar, and karma. Everything is happening when you're awakened. But if you have that moderation, even in swapna also you will be moderate. Because we see, swapna means dream. We see dream what we do during the day or what we think. But if I am thinking, doing good thing, and I am positive, or I am sattvagun during the day, then my dreams will be better too. Otherwise, you'll get the frightening dreams. So that's what Bhagavan is saying, and that is the lifestyle. So basic is, the message is moderation, regulation. Don't become extreme in doing anything, and that is the condition for Dhyan Yoga to be meaningful or fruitful, right? So that's number 16. So now Bhagavan says in 25 shlok, this typical question, and maybe Arjun must be thinking, or Bhagavan can do the reading of Arjun's expression or body language. And this question has come that how long will it take? So Bhagavan is saying, he has said in earlier chapters also, the patience, dhrati, is one of the quality of a sadhak or practitioner in anything, not only spiritual, adhyatmic sadhana, in day-to-day life also. If I'm in sports also, I have to have a patience, right? So that's what Bhagavan is saying in 25th shlok. There's another instruction. He says, Shanahe shane uparamet buddhya, uparmet buddhya dhrati grahitaya, atma sanstham manah kratva, na kinchidapi chintayet. So Bhagavan is saying that one should withdraw mind gradually, or it will happen gradually. We can say both way. Keep doing it. Endowed with dhrati, perseverance. Just be patient. Keep doing the abhyas, or practice, whatever. And by doing this, when the mind abides in Atma Sastha means, I realize that I am this Atma, not the body. Like, who am I? Answer to who am I? We start realizing slowly, and when we do the meditation, we'll see that, right? Or when we sit in the meditation, we'll see that. So, and then Bhagavan says, just do that. And he says in the word, he says, kinchitapi na chinte. Don't worry. That's what he said in the beginning also, that ma shucha. Many times in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, and all our teaching says that don't be anxious about the outcome. Just remain in the medium. So Bhagavan says, na chinte. Chinta is a disturbing element. Just keep doing it with perseverance, with rati grahitaya. With perseverance, if you do that, dharya yukta, with dharya, you will shanay uparmed. Slowly, you will see that our senses are withdrawing. And this is practical. This is not a theory, Bhagwan. We all can do. I personally have seen in my life, it happens. You will see that your senses are slowly withdrawing. Withdrawing from what? Unrequired things. We are not tempted towards what is not supposed to do that. I supposed to do that. Whether it's Rajogun and Tamogun. It happens. That's what Bhagavan is saying. And his teacher is giving the guarantee. So yeah, so that is like what happens during the process of Atma Sanyam or Dhyan Yoga. Now, I'm sure Bhagavan is saying, Arjun, and Bhagavan is a good teacher, and all our teaching Vedantic, we are allowed to ask questions. So and Arjun must be, and Bhagavan giving chance. Now maybe Bhagavan has given a pause there. So Arjun has a question, which comes in shlok number 34. So very, very wonderful question, very pertaining to all of us. In fact, he is asking on our behalf, it looks like that. So 34th slok, Arjuna Uvacha, and he is saying, Chanchalam Himana Krishna Pramati Balavadranam Tasya Aham Nigraham Manni Vayurev Sudushkaram. He's saying, yeah, I understand what you're teaching Sri Krishna, because he's a teacher for Arjuna. But mind is very fickle, very turbulent, very powerful. And I consider it very difficult to restrain it, like the wind. When wind is blowing, you can't control the wind. Each wind has its own course. And he's saying mind is like that, very turbulent, very stubborn. The word he has used, chanchal, means very like fickle. Pramati, very stubborn. Balavadranam, very powerful, like what? Like Vayu. Vayu, like Vayu. You cannot control wind. So mind is like that. Who's saying this? Arjun. We have been listening when we are kid, and even now kids, we read those Amar Chitra Katha stories, and Arjun is a character taught, and we all know in our childhood we have heard stories of Arjun. He was one of the most focused student of Dronacharya. There are stories like he was able to just shoot the eye of a bird kept on a tree during the exam Dronacharya gave. We all know that Arjun was known for his focus, the best archer of his time. He's saying at the age of almost 70, 75 that my man is not even, look at that. We are all ordinary human beings, right? So there is no, we all have the wandering or fickle mind or turbulent mind. It is a human nature because of Rajogun and Tamogun, 14th chapter. Sattvagun makes us mind get stable or quieten. And that's what the whole practice. So Arjun is saying. So now he's saying, so now he looks at Bhagwan after saying that. It's very wandering mind, right? Very fickle, very turbulent. Now look at the answer Bhagwan is giving, shlok number 35. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, Bhagwan is saying, Asanshayam Mahabaho Manodur Nigraham Chalam Abhyasentu Kaunteya Vairagyena Chugrayate. And he says, yes, I accept. Like a good teacher, right? A good teacher will not say that, hey, I already explained to you, don't you get it? He's saying, I accept Arjun. Arjun, undoubtedly, Bhagavan is saying, asanshayam. Undoubtedly, the mind is difficult to restrain. I accept. Mano durnigraham. Durnigraham is very difficult to control, right? But there are two ways, and this is the teaching. All our Shastra, Sanatana Dharma or any other teaching, even look at Buddhist teaching, there are two things we need to do. Bhagavan is saying, abhyas, practice, practice, practice. And we'll do the practice at the end. Bhagavan has told how to practice. We'll do that, right? And Bhagavan says, second is vairagya. Vairagyena cha grayate. Grayate means we can bring under the control. Graya means, bringing mind under control. About control again, here is a channelization, not suppressing. Control means regulation, not suppression. Remember, in Shastri term, whenever we say grahyate, it's not a controlling, it is regulation or channelization of that energy. Mind is useful. Mind is not useless. It's a part of me. It is a reflection of divinity. So Bhagavan is saying, by sabhyasen to vairagya, there are two things: abhyas, practice, 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 and vairagya. Vairagya means, a simple translation is by being detached. Detach in the sense, not running away. Whatever is needed, I should do that. But if it is done, I can let it go. So vairagya, we should say, V means negation of rag and dvesh both. We should supply vairagya means vairagya dvesh. So rag means likes or attachment. Dvesh means dislike or aversion. So you have to rise above both, because if I have a dvesh, dislike, then again mind is disturbed. This is all. The likes and dislikes are part of mind. Likes means mind is again getting disturbed. There are thoughts, there are movements, emotions, and dislike is the same thing. So Bhagavan is saying vairagya means overcoming. Use vairagya, little bit detachment from both likes and dislikes. Not detachment means overcome that and rise above that. And that is vairagya. So in Vivek Chudamani, Bhagavan Shankaracharya has given an example. He says like bird cannot fly without two wings. If we cut one of the wing of the bird or even aeroplane, it will fall on the ground. Bird cannot fly. Similarly, a sadhak who is a practitioner who wants to enjoy this learning of adhyatmic science, spiritual learning, then you need to have two wings. One is abhyas, second is vairagya. Without these two wings, you cannot fly in the sky or in the sky or universe of spirituality. You have to fly. Fly means that anand. You have to have both abhyas, two wings, abhyas and vairagya. That's what Bhagavan is saying. So with that, almost Bhagavan has completed all the principle or the core teaching of Dhyan Yoga or Atma Sanyam. And there are few more shlok you can read later on, go through the entire chapter. But the last shlok of this chapter, Bhagavan has almost last, like 46 shlok. Bhagavan says, we'll take that and do that, the Dhyan technique which Bhagavan has taught. So Bhagavan is saying in that 46 shlok that Tasmad Yogi Bhavarjun. He says Tapasvibhyo Adhiko Yogi Jnanibhyo Api Matodhikah Karmibhyach Adhika Yogi Tasmat Yogi Bhavarjuna. So Bhagavan is saying, yeah, karma is required, and then there are people who do karma, then there is a Jnana Yoga, and that is also fine. And Bhagavan says it's not like a better, but is a ladder. So by doing karma, we prepare ourselves. By doing jnana, we understand why we are doing the karma. And then dhyan is assimilation of the teaching. So Bhagavan says, therefore Arjun, become tasmat yogi bhavarjun. So we should say tasmat dhyana yogi bhavarjun. Bhav means become. So Bhagavan is saying, become a dhyan yogi Arjun. Do dhyan. And we saw in the beginning, dhyan benefit. We use the word benefit, but the outcome. When we sit in dhyan, when we prepare ourselves for dhyan, the outcome is that we overcome the likes and dislikes. I become an observer without judging, and then I am abiding in stable state of mind rather than reactive state of mind. That's what that's what Bhagavan is saying. When Bhagavan says Dhyan Yogi Bhavarjun means this is what the goal. So karma and jnana required, but dhyan is which makes us sustain the whole understanding, the principle, the teaching. And that's why dhyan it's very important. And these days, if we talk to doctors and medical health experts or mental health problems in all those countries, especially America, many other countries, they are all saying do meditation. There are techniques. They call it cognitive behavior therapy or many names. But what happens, they say when you do dhyan, your vagus nerve gets activated, the serotonin or all those happy chemicals are released, and they activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is called the system which is responsible for rest and digest, and it improves the gut health. All those benefits are there. But why, if you are, they say doing meditation, we don't say doing meditation. We create a situation where we become in meditative state. That's the right way to say. So let's go back to shlok number 11, 12, where Bhagavan has given the technique, and we'll do the same technique and do the dhyan. And I know, we all know that everybody is doing some or other technique these days, meditation. There are teachers, there are YouTube, which is good. You can keep doing that. But whatever you don't find in that, and if you find here what Bhagavan is telling, it is coming from Bhagavad Gita. I do this. I have various versions of this based on kids or based on some non-Hindu friends or Hindu friends. Same technique, but I use in different ways, different language, different terms, but the same technique. So you can follow the same technique. You can add, if something you're doing, it is missing, you can add this, what Bhagavan is saying, to your own practice. But that's the advantage of dhyan. Bhagavan has already told to Arjun, who's accomplished archer, who's the best student, best personality of his time. To him, Bhagavan is recommending, do this, Arjun, because Bhagavan knows that after this teaching, Bhagavad Gita is over, he's going to go for Yudh, the war, Swadharma. So we all need to continue to work to perform our duties. The dhyan is in the middle. It helps us continue to do what is required to be done. So, so the stroke number 10, Bhagwan has used 11 of 6th chapter. Bhagwan has used one word, sthir asanam atmana. You have to sit in the sthir asana. That's what Patanjali also say, that stay in a stable state, wherever, like on the chair or on the ground, but sit in a stable place. Then Bhagwan says in shlok number 13, I decipher all those, created a technique from these 3, 4, 5 shlokas. Bhagwan has not given all the details, but if you read, if you think based on other places in Bhagavad Gita, that's what Bhagwan is trying to say. And then he says, Sampreksh Nasikagram. What he is saying that Samam Kaya Shivo Grivam means keep the spine straight, which we say in the meditation. And he's saying keep the focus on the tip of the nostril, Nasikagram. So here the technique which is already given in 14th chapter and 13th chapter, Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga tells that we are made of 5 elements, Panchatattva, and this is actually Panchatattva Dhyan, what Bhagwan intend here, I'm sure. So Panchatattva Dhyan means there are 5 elements we are made of, and the whole creation is made of 5 elements, Panchatattva: Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, Akash, Earth, water, of course, Agni, which is fire, wind, air, or space. We are made. And 5 sense perceptions, which is nose, jiva means tongue, then eyes, skin, and ear. With these through 5 sense perception, we call it Jnanendriya, we interact with the Panch Tattva world, outside world. And that's where the whole world comes inside me. And behind this is the mind, and that's what mind gets disturbed. Our minds have the movement, the thoughts. So the purpose of this technique, which Bhagwan is saying, to quieten these senses. When these senses are quietened, the mind automatically gets quietened, because mind is not getting the feed from these senses, because you have shut down these senses from the outside world. They use this technique called CBT, cognitive behavior therapy in mental health. Same technique they use to quieten the mind of the person whose mental health means anxiety and stress and all. For everyone, this is applicable. And then when mind is quietened, the buddhi doesn't have to do much work, because buddhi works with mind. If there are no thoughts, buddhi will also quieten. And then the chitta, which is memory store, there's nothing to bring from the chitta memory store, because everything is quietened. And this state, I realize, which Bhagwan is going to tell, that he says in the next slok, when you reach to that state, yukta asita matpara. Matpara means I am the ultimate goal. I am in that Satchidanand Paramatma, that Sat, the Chit, the Anand. And that time, in this quiet thing, just think that you are that. I am is, Bhagwan is, ultimately our teaching is Tattvamasi. In that state, we realize that I am that, or Paramatma, I am that Anand. And that is, we can call it Dhyan or Samadhi. Various terms are used. But this is what the technique. So let's do that very quickly, what Bhagwan has said, and then enjoy, right? So typically, if you say Om 6 times, it takes 45 seconds or 50 seconds to six times say Omkar, and that helps activate the vagus nerve, and there are basically parasympathetic nervous system. Or in simple terms, it quietens the mind. If you don't talk of neuroscience, it's simple. So 6 times Om. I will do once or twice here, but you can do 6 times. It takes 55 seconds. So take a deep breath. Now it is belly breathing, because there are advantages of belly breathing described everywhere, and you can read any yoga material, it's there. So belly breathing means take a deep breath, and while exhale through mouth, say Om, right? You can do it 6 times, 10 times. It takes 1.5, 1 to 1. That helps quieten the mind. Now Bhagwan says, keep the focus on the nasikagram, is tip of the nostril. and bring image of Prithvi Tattva, because through the nostril or nose, which is a sense perception or Indriya, Gyanendriya, through which we interact with the earth element. The smell comes through nose. A smell means earth element. So bring the image of Prithvi. For us, Prithvi is Bhudevi in the mind, and keep the focus on the tip of the nostril. Now this time, slow and shallow breathing. It is not a pranayama. Now shift focus to the tip of the tongue and bring image of Jal Tattva, which is for us Varun Devata. Can bring image of any fountain, river, anything, or fall, Jal Devata. Now shift focus to the eyes and bring image of Agni Tattva, because through eyes we see or we interact with Agni Tattva. The best representation of Agni is Surya Bhagwan. So bring image of Surya Bhagwan or sun in mind and keep the focus on eyes. Now shift focus to skin and feel Vayu. We cannot see Vayu, we cannot touch Vayu or wind. We can only feel wind on skin. Skin is the fourth sense perception or Gyanendriya, and on skin we can feel Vayu. When you do this technique, keep the focus on skin, we can really feel the Vayu around us. Now the fifth element is space. Space we cannot see, we cannot touch, we cannot feel. The only way we know space is that because sound travels in space. So when you keep the focus on ear, which is the fifth Gyanendriya perception, sense of perception, we can hear some distant sound. My voice is coming to the ears, right? Your ears. That means sound is traveling in space. That means there is a space around me, there's a space inside me. In fact, all these elements are outside also or inside me, because I am made of Prakriti. We will see in the 13th chapter when we go to, we are made of Prakriti, 5 elements. That's why when I do this Dhyan is used in CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. By doing this, these senses quietens. Once these senses are quietened, behind these senses there is a mind. Mind automatically gets quietened. We call it Manah Shanti, or peace of mind. Now at this stage, Bhagavan says Yukta Asit Matvara, but we can add one more step in the middle, that I am not these 5 elements, nothing, I am not these 5 senses, I am not even the mind, I am not behind mind, buddhi behind mind, I am not that ego, body identified, this individual, I am the Chaitanya Atma, which is we call it awareness, or unconditional or untainted consciousness. We call it Sakshi Chaitanya. I am that. That's what Bhagavan is saying. And then Bhagavan says, Yukta Asit Matra. In this state, just bring me in the mind. Me means Bhagavan's any name, image, Omkar, anything in the mind. And think that I am that. Tattvamasi. In this state, when we practice again and again, this happens that the difference between me and Bhagavan, devotee and Bhagavan, or Bhagavan, is also resolved. That is called Advait. Only one thing remains, that either I am Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. And that is called Dhyan or Samadhi state, whatever we call it. And based on the time, you can do this for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever time available. But at least it takes 3 to 5 minutes to do this. We can do 3 times during the day, as we saw in the 14th chapter, because of Rajogun and Tamogun are, Sattvagun is higher in the morning, do in the morning. During the day, Rajogun is higher than during the day, like mid afternoon time. And then evening, Tamogun is higher, so do again in the evening to balance those. And then whatever benefits we already see that. And we can end with Om, right? Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So this is Atma Sanyam Yoga, Dhyan Yoga chapter, where Bhagwan has given the technique also to Arjun, for all of us also. So we'll do that. So I'll stop here. There's a class going on, and then teacher was asked after this kind of discussion, Dhyan Yoga. Teacher said, can you give one statement after listening all that about Dhyan? So one of the students says that in Hindi I'll say and then translate in English. ध्यान से मन शांत होता है. By doing meditation, you get the peace of mind. The second student said, शांत मन से ध्यान होता है. Look at that. Now he says, by meditation, mind become quietened. The second one says, no, the quiet minds, you can do meditation. With Shantman, you can do meditation. That's what we use all these, see these sentences all over internet world, right? Or different teachers say different way. Dhyan se man shant hota hai means by meditation you can quieten the mind, or by quiet mind you can do the meditation. Teacher heard both of them and he said, yeah, both are right, but let me modify that. And he says, actually shant man hi dhyan hota hai. That means when the mind is quietened, that is dhyan. There is no separate thing dhyan. So when the mind is quiet, that is dhyan. And in this, you don't have to do anything. There's no exercise here. And how the man gets the shant, if we go back to Sthit Pragya, second chapter, if we sixth chapter again, many times Bhagwan has said in the Bhagavad Gita that the whole technique is to make the mind samatvam, means always in a state of equanimity, and that is dhyan. So that's what people say that Buddha, Bhagwan, or many other teachers, they used to have even walking meditation. While they're walking, they're in meditative state because their man is shant, man is peaceful. That's dhyan. So while that is karma yoga, in karma yoga, Bhagwan says stay in the medium, means Bhagwan is telling Arjun that keep doing the yuddha and keep me in mind. Me in the sense, keep the mind peaceful and continue to do the yuddha. Yuddha and shanti can coexist as taught by Bhagwan Shri Krishna, right? So with that, we'll stop. We'll continue next time with the 7th chapter. So again, this is Atma Sanyam Yoga and Dhyan Yoga, and there is a technique given. And let's use that and continue to use our knowledge, awareness, Gyan, and Karma Yoga with the help of Dhyan Yoga. Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna.